Title: The Underground Man. The city never slept. Not really. Even in the shallow hours of the night, it murmured through humming neon lights, distant traffic, and the ceaseless pulse of electricity under the streets. But below that rhythm, far beneath its paved skin, a different world breathed in silence. Jonah pressed his hand against the cool concrete wall of his underground chamber. It vibrated faintly with the passing of a subway car, familiar, comforting presence. Years of routine had carved the layout into his muscle memory. A small table of polished scrap wood. A cot made from the frame of an old bunk bed and padding sewn from discarded cushions. Shelveshi's proudest achievement lined with books, jars of preserved mushrooms, and carefully labeled electronics. He flicked on the generator-powered lamp, casting a golden cone of light over a worn notebook. Today's entry, like all the others, began with the date, the 11th of October. Surface temp, 57 Fahrenheit. Feelings were for people who lived above, where things changed quickly. Down, a quiet clink echoed through the tunnel. He froze. Jonah knew every sound these tunnels made: the hiss of condensation, the faint chatter of distant plumbing, even the wind that sometimes wormed its way down storm drains. But this wasn't that. It was sharper, intentional. He moved toward the vent shaft near the rear of his chamber and crouched, tilting his ear. Voices. 2, young, 1 male, 1 female. They were arguing. She said it was here. The letter said right by the old mural. There is no mural. It's just a cracked wall and rats. No, look closer, she said. Eyes that watch beneath the bricks. That's the line. Jonah exhaled through his nose. Another one. Over the past year, more people had started seeking him out. Not by name, no one knew his name, but by reputation. The Watcher, the man beneath, the one who left letters, who helped people when no one else would. He didn't mean to start a legend. He just couldn't stop listening. With practiced care, Jonah pressed a hand against a section of wall where the bricks were newer, drier. He tugged a thin wire hidden in the cracks. A stone shifted with a quiet scrape. The girl screamed. Jonah stepped into the light, spilling from above, and raised one hand. Easy, he said. You're not lost, not anymore. The boy fumbled backward, pulling the girl with him. Their faces were pale with shock. You're real, the girl whispered. So are you, Jonah said. He didn't ask why they'd come. He never did. People who found their way to him never arrived by accident. And whatever they were running from, he had likely heard it already, somewhere in the tremble of a voice through a pipe, or the echo of boots down an alley at night. He turned and gestured toward the tunnel behind him. Come in. You've made it this far. You might as well rest. They hesitated, then followed. As the door closed behind them, muffling the city once more, Jonah felt something stir in his chest. Not fear, not hope. Something quieter. Change. The warmth of the tunnels was a different kind of heat, dense, still, like a thick breath held by the earth itself. The girl, maybe 16, looked around wide-eyed. The boy stayed close behind her, still tense, as though expecting a trap at any moment. Jonah led them through a short, low corridor lit by old string lights running along the ceiling, some flickering, some steady. The air smelled faintly of iron and moss. His main room opened like a quiet pocket in the earth, half living space, half workshop. The walls were lined with books, circuit boards, cans of preserved food, and coils of wire. A single cot rested in one corner. A kettle sat on a camp stove, already starting to hiss with steam. Sit, Jonah said, motioning to the 2 folding chairs by the table. You look like you've walked a long way. The girl sat slowly. We didn't mean to break in or anything. We were just fetters. Jonah poured hot water into 3 mugs and added a few dried herbs. People usually are. The boy still hadn't spoken. Jonah offered a cup to the girl. What's your name? Lyra. He handed the boy a cup next. And yours? After a long pause. Cam. Jonah sat. The 3 of them drank in silence for a few moments. The tea was bitter and earthy. Lyra flinched at the taste but said nothing. You said something about a letter, Jonah prompted. Lyra nodded and fumbled in her bag, pulling out a folded piece of paper. It was creased and stained, the ink smudged. She placed it on the table. Jonah recognized his handwriting immediately. If no one else hears you, go where the city forgets itself. Find the bricks that watch. Some things grow better in the dark. He remembered writing it months ago and slipping it into the cracked mailbox of a closed community center. He hadn't known who it would reach, only that it needed to find someone. My mom disappeared, Lyra said suddenly. Her voice cracked just a little. She left 6 months ago. No message, no warning, just gone. Can't. A name, a sound. I found the letter in her coat pocket, Lyra continued. Not long after she vanished. I think she was trying to follow it, or leave it for someone else to find. Jonah's fingers drummed once on the table, then stopped. He stood and crossed to a shelf in the corner, pulling down a battered metal file box. Inside were dozens of notes fragments, maps, observations, names, a paper trail of the lost. He flipped through quickly. There. E. Halden. Address: 218 Mercer Street, Unit 6B. Occupation: former library employee. Volunteered at Urban Shelter. Disappeared, the 3rd of April. He turned back to Lyra. Your mother's name? Eleanor? Lyra's eyes widened. You knew her? I knew of her. If you come any further, there's no going back. Neither of them argued. The city above never stopped moving. But below, beneath the skin of it all, something had just started. 6 months earlier, Eleanor Halden stood alone at the edge of the abandoned subway platform, her breath visible in the stale underground air. She had followed the clues for weeks, muttered names in shelters, half-burned files in a shuttered city office, and finally, a map drawn in pencil on the inside of a discarded library book. All of it led her here. The city had forgotten this place. The lights had died long ago. Only her flashlight carved a path through the dark. She stepped carefully, the echo of her boots trailing behind her like ghosts. The silence was unnatural thick and watching. She knew she shouldn't have come alone, but no one else cared. People disappeared from the system all the time, and the city's gears kept grinding. But Eleanor wasn't a gear. She was a librarian, a researcher, a mother, and she had seen enough disappear into the cracks, in the shadows, bearded, eyes sharp. Not surprised to see her. Who are you? She whispered, terrified but not backing away. The man looked at her for a long moment. Someone who listens, he said. You shouldn't be here. They're taking people, she said breathlessly. People no one will miss. They're hiding them down here, removing them. He nodded slowly. I know. He handed her a folded note. In case you don't make it out, leave it for someone who will. Eleanor stared at it. Who are you? He looked away. Just a man who stayed underground too long. She didn't see him again. The next morning, the tunnel where she had hidden was empty. The people who looked for her, if anyone did, never found a trace. But the note remained, tucked inside her coat pocket. A note that her daughter Lyra would one day find. Subscribe my channel and comment below your ideas about story.